So for those of you who haven't seen our Instagram post, the Office of Undergrad Research on their website, they've actually linked our blog on there. So if you go under publications, it'll directly link you to our blog. So just to let you guys know that to continue posting, because you never know who might see that. And then the other thing I wanted to say was that I don't know if you guys have seen our Instagram post, but we actually have a guest speaker for next Tuesday, and he'll be starting at 2 p.m. His name is Faizan Ahmed, and he's actually a medical school student at the University of Louisville. And he'll be coming to talk to us about like kind of what the med school admissions process is like, and just kind of how research helped him in his undergraduate career and how it's helping him in med school as well. So come prepared with all your questions, and feel free to tell other students who don't go to NC State as well, because this could be a really great opportunity for them as well. So yeah. And so today we're going to be hearing from Maria Alvarez, and she'll be talking to us about health disparities. And we'll also be hearing from Ruby Shah about the COVID-19 pandemic as well.
All right, so I guess I'm going first. I'm just gonna share my screen. Here. So my presentation is on using the lessons learned we learned from SARS and the MERS epidemic, and since they're both coronaviruses, we can use that to learn how to stop COVID. Oh, I don't know how that's happening. Sorry about that, I had an issue. Here we go. All right, so I'm just gonna do a quick overview of viruses and some defenses we can use to stop viruses. So viruses are particles that have the ability to attach to cells and insert their genetic material through a receptor on the cell. It is highly debated if they're non-living or living. Personally, my opinion is they're not living, because they can't actually reproduce or replicate on their own. They have to have some sort of host cell. But there are two ways genetic material of a virus can affect host cell. So one, it can take over the nucleus and start replicating viruses, and then the viruses like explode out of the cell, or the genetic material gets implemented into the original material of the nucleus and becomes part of the cell, which can lead to a lot of different things. It could be good, but it could be bad. We don't really know. And some viral defenses, the most well-known obviously is vaccines. It can be protein derived, like little subunits you see on the viral surface, genetic material derived, a live virus, or an inactivated virus, which is basically a virus that's been killed or weakened. Of course, washing hands, always wash your hands. You can protect yourself if you wash your hands. And there are various medicines that can help with symptoms caused by viruses. Like if you get a fever, for example, you can use ibuprofen or Advil or something like that. So what is COVID-19? A lot of people know COVID-19 is the disease caused by the virus known as SARS-CoV-2, or novel coronavirus. The longest name is Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. Don't try saying that all the time. And it first appeared in Wuhan, China in a seafood market in December of 2019. Some people say it appeared in September, but the confirmed date is December of 2019. They saw a lot of a group of people with pneumonia, and they discovered it was caused by this coronavirus. So right now it's known that COVID-19 is caused by a coronavirus that is thought to affect the respiratory system and spread through respiratory droplets of those who are infected. So I'm gonna go over SARS and MERS because they're also both coronaviruses, and we can learn a lot from the epidemics that were caused by these viruses. So SARS, also known as severe acute respiratory syndrome, is a type of coronavirus that caused an epidemic in China in 2002. Its fatality rate, or rate that it can kill, is 9.19%, and its natural reservoir is the bat with an intermediate host of palm civets. So a natural reservoir is just where you can find a high concentration of these viruses in nature. It affects the ACE2 receptor, which is a type of receptor that's located in many cell types, especially cells that line specific tissues to create a barrier. Mainly, it's highly concentrated in the alveolar epithelium type 2 cells, basically cells that line alveoli, which is why when it's attacked, it leaves the alveoli defenseless and can cause some breathing issues, hence the shortness of breath. But the ACE2 receptors are also located in various parts of the body, such as the lungs, heart, the digestive tract, and liver, which is why maybe if you have diabetes or kidney problems, which is because it's also located in the kidneys, you can be highly susceptible to COVID-19, because also coronavirus is also attacks ACE2 cells. For MERS, also known as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, is a type of coronavirus that caused an epidemic in the Middle East in 2012, with a fatality rate of 34.4%, which is considered the highest among these three coronaviruses. It also has a natural reservoir of bats, and the intermediate host is the camel. It specifically affects DPP4, which is an enzyme involved in increasing blood sugar. Also, if anybody has questions, feel free to put it in the chat or ask. So why should we use information about other viruses to stop COVID-19? In reality, it would take a very long time to determine the origins of the coronavirus. So it would take a very long time because it's really hard to find patient zero, which is where it's like the first patient that was infected with this virus. And in reality, it would be really hard to figure out how that patient got it in the first place. So as a quicker way to determine information about the coronavirus, specifically COVID-19, scientists decided to use MERS and SARS and previous treatments and vaccines that they used for those specific coronavirus to stop COVID-19. So here are some statistics on all three coronaviruses, SARS, MERS, and COVID-19. So for COVID-19, as of February the 20th of 2020, it has a fatality rate of 2.8%. This could have easily changed as the virus has spread throughout the world. And as previously stated in the presentation, these are the fatality rates of SARS and MERS. At the same date, the number of those infected with COVID-19 was 75,725, while the total for SARS was a little over 8,000, and MERS was about 2,494. The main difference between COVID-19 and SARS or MERS is that COVID-19 is a lot more contagious. It's probably why COVID-19 has been the cause of this pandemic, while SARS and MERS only caused an epidemic in various countries. So here are some similarities of COVID-19 and SARS. It is known that the viral genome of both viruses are fairly similar. They both affect ACE2, but it is thought that COVID-19's ability to attach to the receptors of ACE2 is higher than SARS, which is a probable reason for why it's a lot more contagious. The both natural reservoirs are bats, so stay away from bats, especially in China. because that's where they most likely came from. The reproductive number, or on R naught, which is very important for SARS, is around 1.4 or 5.5, while COVID-19 is in the middle with 2.2 or 2.6. Any R naught above 1 can lead to continued transmission, which means it can continue and jump from person to person, which is important because that can lead to a pandemic or epidemic. So here's the immunopathology of COVID-19. It's still under investigation, but as stated previously, COVID-19 is mainly a respiratory disease, and for most patients, it will only affect the lungs. If you do have some sort of kidney problems or liver problems, such, it could also infect the liver and kidneys. The asymptomatic incubation period is between 2 and 14 days, which is also a reason for its COVID-19's rapid spread. With that long incubation period, it increases the likelihood that it will spread to other people. And the fact that it's spread through respiratory droplets, it makes it an even easier way to spread. A study of 41 hospitalized patients has been shown to have high levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Cytokines are basically a kind of chemical that is released by the immune system. It travels through the body and tells the body, hey, there's something really bad here. We need to kick it into high gear. So a lot of the immune system is activated when there is cytokines released. High levels of cytokines can also lead to a cytokine storm, which is very dangerous because if there's a lot of cytokines released at the same time really, really fast, it can cause the immune system to overload and start attacking various parts of the body, which includes various organs, which if it attacks organs, it can lead to some organ damage. And since COVID-19 is mainly infects the lungs, it can cause some serious lung injuries among many other complications. So here are some strategies used on COVID-19 that are learned from SARS and MERS. So researchers and doctors have recorded and researched the number of total neutrophils and lymphocytes found found in patients who have been infected with COVID-19. It has been shown neutrophils have a increase while lymphocytes have a decrease. Neutrophils are really important because they not only help deal with infections, but they also help heal damage caused by viruses on tissues. Lymphocytes mostly just also deal with infections. And a separate study that was done was comparing the levels of innate cytokines in patients in ICU versus non-ICU care, which is intensive care unit. So those in ICU care have higher levels of innate cytokines, while those not in ICU care don't have as high levels. This can show how severe and deadly the virus is because, as said previously, increased levels of cytokines can lead to a cytokine storm. So here's some antiviral responses that can help defend against COVID-19. They are downstream cascades that help limit viral replication. So if genetic material gets inserted into a cell, the cell responds by activating certain mechanisms in order to stop and suppress these viral replication processes. But if previous coronaviruses have shown that it can suppress these downstream cascades, and this could also, if the current coronavirus does have the ability to do this, it can increase in severity. Currently, we don't know yet. So the dampening properties of SARS, there have been evidence that SARS does stop certain steps on the downstream cascades that limit viral replication. These downstream cascades are specifically called PAMPs, or pathogen-associated molecular patterns. They're just innate forms of viral defenses where the cell starts transcribing genetic material, and when the cell starts transcribing this genetic material, it starts another transcription process that leads to the suppression of viral replication. SARS limits downstream cascades by suppressing type 1 IFN. This is the point where initiation of certain genes are activated. So certain genes are activated that can suppress viral replication, but when the initiation of this is suppressed, it will stop the downstream cascade, which of course leads to increased severity of the virus. So there are some adaptive immune responses. The previous responses were innate, so they already exist in the body. They will activate if a virus or any other pathogen gets into the body, but these adaptive immune responses will create specific antibodies to stop specific viruses. So one type of adaptive immune response is Th1 type immune response. And this, if we activate this immune response in those who are susceptible to COVID-19 or have been infected by COVID-19, it can create an adaptive response, which means specific antibodies are created while cytotoxic T cells are killing viral infective cells. And if this process if the rate is increased, it can stop COVID-19 before it does any really, really bad damage. There's also another response called humoral immune response, which helps in the production of making the specific antibodies to protect the host who was infected from being infected again by the same virus. And it could also protect the host from being infected by the virus for a long period of time. For SARS, long-lasting specific antibodies were found by initiating production of these specific antibodies. And this same thing can be protected. I see a lot of questions. So I will be getting to the treatments for SARS and MERS really soon. And then these are some potential immune invasions mechanisms that are used by coronaviruses. So this is one reason why the incubation period is so long for coronaviruses. They are adapted to evade immune detection, which increases their severity and explains why they have a longer incubation period. So if they evade immune detection, this means they have to be careful and not infect as many cells at once. It has to be slow. Some immune evasion mechanisms include viral mutations, immune exhaustion, and immune deviation. Immune deviation is basically when a pathogen is split between of tolerance between cell-mediated and humoral immunities. So most of these mechanisms rely on the inhibition of innate immune responses. So instead of increasing the strength of the specific innate immune responses, the rate of adaptive immune responses can be increased, such as using a vaccine. So here are some types of vaccines, at least for SARS and MERS. There are DNA vaccines that were used. Some at an advantage, rapid production, it can rapidly produce the vaccine, but you need an efficient delivery system in order to properly give the vaccine to a person. So there's also a viral vector, as seen in this picture. You can take a chunk of the genome, or you can take a chunk of the virus and put it into the vaccine. It is good at immune induction, so it's good at inducing the immune system to start creating antibodies, but you have to be careful on where you insert this vaccine because it can produce different immune responses. So here's some more types of vaccine. Subunit vaccine is basically the spike protein. You can use that spike protein and put it into the vaccine. It has a high safety profile, so it is very, very unlikely to cause any sort of side effects or hypersensitivity, but it can have a varying cost effectiveness. So it could not be very effective in terms of vaccine. It may. Virus-like particles. So that's basically inserting a particle that looks like a virus in order to trick your immune system to thinking it is a virus. But you need an optimum assembly condition to have this vaccine work. And the activated virus is basically a killed version of a said virus. So you would insert the whole virus, but it would be killed in quotes. It will preserve the virus's structure, which makes it more effective as a vaccine, but it can cause hypersensitivity. So people who maybe have a sort of immune deficiency or something like that can be extra sensitive to this virus and have some symptoms. The live and nucleated virus, it's basically like a mutant virus. So in terms of SARS and MERS, a mutant version of the virus was created, and this was used as a vaccine. It is considered the most effective form of a virus, but there is a risk of the mutant virus changing into a strain that can cause some sort of side effect symptoms such as that. Yeah. So here are some conclusions. So of course, COVID-19 is a type of coronavirus, which means it has a high incubation period and can invade the immune system fairly well. And previous coronaviruses such as SARS and MERS can teach us how to defend against COVID-19. Using statistics on these coronaviruses, COVID-19 seems a lot more mild as compared to fatality rate, but in terms of its ability to infect other people, it is a lot higher. Hence why COVID-19 has caused a pandemic versus SARS and MERS causing an epidemic. It is currently unknown if the COVID-19 virus can suppress antiviral responses, but it is known that COVID-19 can invade the immune system. By using adaptive immune responses such as the Th immune response and various vaccines, as learned from SARS and MERS, vaccines and treatments can be made. All right, I have time for questions. I'm reading through the chat right now. So as said previously, the vaccines made for SARS and MERS were like all those like DNA vaccines and virus-like particles. The incubation is so long because it can easily evade the immune system. I think in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic being less severe than the MERS pandemic, it really depends on how you look at this. COVID-19 versus MERS. MERS was an epidemic, but it did have the highest fatality rate. So MERS did not infect as many people, but if it did have the ability to affect as many people as COVID-19 has, it could be a lot more dangerous. In terms of COVID-19, I think it could be more severe than MERS because of the precautions we have to take and the whole worldwide shutdown and ability to make a vaccine quickly. So personally, I think COVID-19 has been a little more severe than MERS because of the public's reaction to COVID-19 and how we can defend against it. If a vaccine is possible near the future, I feel like it could be, since we have learned so much from previous coronaviruses, and the fact that I saw that someone said using virus-like particles can make vaccines quicker. It could be a lot easier to make a vaccine for COVID-19. But it depends. You have to go through a lot of testing for a lot of these different vaccines. So maybe it could be at the end of the year. I feel like it's possible since we know so much about various other coronaviruses and using SARS and MERS, but we'll see. Hopefully it will. So how do you feel about prediction graph created in relation to I think the prediction graphs created, it could, I feel like they're pretty relevant. They're pretty important. It depends, of course, on how you find out on who has COVID-19 and who doesn't. Usually people find out they have COVID-19 because they're able to go to a healthcare professional and get testing, but there are a lot of people who do not have access to those sort of resources. So it's a lot harder to determine if they have COVID-19 or not. So the prediction graphs, I think they're important in a way, but you have to also consider that there are other ways that, or other people that can have COVID-19 and not have access to get themselves tested. And do you think we have reopened the country too quickly? Yes, we have reopened way too fast. As seen here, especially in North Carolina, in the past few days, numbers have just shot up, and it has been really hard. I have been reading up on what our governor is going to do about it. There's a chance that he might reclose businesses because of the numbers shooting up really fast. And honestly, if we just close the country for a little bit longer, or at least until we have a vaccine, that would be okay. But we haven't, so yikes.
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick, going off Ruby's point. I think that we've reopened way too quickly, because I was reading this article the other day saying that like this is like the past few days we've seen like the largest spike in coronavirus cases, especially in North Carolina, and I think Mecklenburg County right now is being hit the hardest. And that's just crazy to me, because I think restaurants are at like 50% open capacity, and I've like driven by places like going grocery shopping and stuff, and people are actually like eating, like sitting down and eating together in restaurants and stuff like that. And it just worries me that, because like there's no, like we don't have any preventative like measure besides just quarantining and just staying home. And I feel like it's really hard to tell people just stay home, like it's going to be okay, when you're surrounded by people who are acting like everything's fine. I don't know if that's makes sense to anyone else, but also with like the vaccine stuff, I was listening to CNN a few weeks ago, and I think one person said that one scientist, I forget his name, but he said that he's not sure if vaccines like are realistic, or because at this point it's just so widespread, he thinks that the best solution might just be herd immunity. So I don't know, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in like the next few months, or like even just how the end of the year plays out with how coronavirus rates are, what happened, like what the results of reopening were and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see why the scientists would say herd immunity would be the best option, but we also have to consider that viruses can mutate.
Mm-hmm.
It can mutate, and COVID-19 can easily get mutated. So if it mutates, we're just screwed a second time. So,
so I just wanted to add that like a lot of like even back in February, like even in China, they were talking about cases where people were getting reinfected. So like I think the problem with this, as opposed to like something like, I don't know, smallpox, is like you can get it again, and you can keep getting it again, and like the reduced lung function really like reduces your ability to survive it multiple times, because most people who get it a second time, they have, or even like compromised populations who get it the first time, and anyone who gets it a second time will have permanent long-term damage, and our infrastructure is like totally like not able to handle that. And yeah, like it's like herd immunity would be nice, but we don't have any infrastructure to keep that in place.
So yeah, I definitely agree with that. So that's why it's important to understand adaptive immune responses, because innate versus adaptive. Innate is just a immune responses that you already have, such as the pathogen-associated molecular patterns. And adaptive is very important because it can protect you for long periods of time. And in order to initiate that response, vaccines are a good way, but there could be other ways that I don't know about. I would recommend looking it up if you are interested. So, did someone else want to talk?
I just wanted to say, I know Finland tried to early on to have herd immunity by not closing down their country, and that hasn't gone really well for them. They thought they'd be around 25% immunity a few weeks ago, and they were at like 9%, and their death rate's much higher than the surrounding countries. So herd immunity is like a really double-edged sword. Like, how do you get it without killing a bunch of people?
Exactly. I would understand if using herd immunity for like if we did have a vaccine, because that's how we use the flu vaccine. A lot of people get the flu vaccine, and those who are compromised don't really have to worry about it because the main population can't get it. But we don't have a vaccine for the COVID-19 virus yet, so it could go really bad.
One other thing I wanted to say, going off what Huma said about, wait, Huma, am I saying your name right? Huma?
That's the whitest thing I've ever heard.
I know, I'm sorry, I say names wrong. I'm ashamed.
You got it perfectly. You did it.
Huma?
That's what your teacher
Wait, Ripper, you need to apologize.
say.
You were so out of pocket for that. I said it right, Huma. Anyways, one thing I wanted to say, going off what Huma said, was the thing about the long-term damage to people like recovering from viruses. Because I was talking to my friend who actually has lupus, and she said that one thing that she's really worried about is like the long-term effect that coronavirus will have on people who recover from it, because they might like themselves develop all these autoimmune disorders and things like that.
Definitely. Hold on, I'm trying to find the slide.
It was shown that it can cause severe damage to your lungs, so irreparable damage. So we're already seeing that.
Yeah, so the reason this new coronavirus was discovered was because a group of people in Wuhan, China was found to have pneumonia. So pneumonia is a bacterium. What must have happened was the virus, I think, inhibited the immune system, which allowed pneumonia to take effect. So other than the effects of the virus, there's a ton of like bacterial influences that can happen, lung injury as people have said, and ton of really bad stuff that's bad. So stay inside, wear your masks, please.
Yeah, and I hope to talk about this next week, but I just wanted to mention in younger, like a lot of times, like we've seen that everybody's been talking about how it predominantly affects older adults and people who already have pre-existing conditions. But according to newer research, that's not necessarily true. Like now that it's been a few months. So it's found that like youth are basically asymptomatic carriers, and also if you're under like the age of like 15 or 16, like if you're basically like preteen, then you're way more likely to have blood clotting issues. And in the UK and Germany, and I think in the US, but there's just so little research in the US, there have been many incidents where kids have died because there's like a secondary blood clotting incident where like they will die of like a blood clot will go to their heart, and then that will get, that's why they die. So there's like lots of other secondary symptoms and things that we don't even know about right now. But like I think the pneumonia is really interesting because the pneumonia is also developing with the kids, but like there's something else, like it's already mutated multiple times, and it's like it's mutated differently in different countries. So like we're seeing like different types of symptoms in like different areas. So yeah, like he said, stay inside, and if you go outside, wear a mask.
I think I missed a question. Do you think a mutation, did I say that one? Do you think a mutation could impact the severity of a second wave? Yes. I don't know how severe it could be, but I think it could be the reason people are saying that there's going to be a second wave coming in December is because of mutation. Also, it's cold and everyone doesn't want to, like, everyone wants to be packed together and not cold. So maybe.
I also had kind of like a similar question. Do you guys think that we're getting reliable information about COVID? Because I know some people are saying that some countries have stopped testing to make it look like that, like their numbers are going down. So that's why, like in the US, it kind of looks like our numbers are going up, but like it's kind of like still all over the world, but some countries have stopped testing and things. So what do you guys feel about that? Do you think we're getting accurate information about what's going on?
No. I've literally, like, there was literally our president, he had a rally in Tulsa. He literally said, we should slow down testing because then we'll know if people have cases. I'm like, we're screwed.
Do you think there should be like a higher rate of testing for antibodies, like seeing who already has, like, I guess, antibodies for the virus?
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea to test for antibodies as well. I guess that could also give a view on like better statistics on who recovered, who has a better chance of recovering from COVID-19. And they are using people who have recovered as ways to find out treatments, like studying those antibodies that have been developed to stop COVID.
Also, this is my last question, but do you guys think wearing masks when you go outside like really prevents the spread of COVID-19, or do you think they should do more measures to still keep social distancing in place? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
I think both are correct. That is, like, you should of course be social distancing yourself and wearing a mask. The mask is very important. There has been I've seen a lot of images everywhere on how the ability to get infected versus wearing a mask versus not wearing a mask. Yes, John has made a good point in the chat. Yes, masks are important. In reality, viruses are extremely small. They can get through the mask. That is a very high possibility, but if you do have it, it does protect other people because it is infected by, you get it by respiratory droplets, and the mask can protect you from those droplets. So that's also a good point. There's a lot of good points here. Good job, everybody. Any other questions, concerns? Personally, I have a lot of concerns with this, but this article is really important, showing me that yes, there are ways to stop this virus, and everything will go back to normal soon, hopefully. So, yay.
Well, thank you, Ruby. That was super informative, and that was some really good discussion. So next, we'll kind of switch gears, and we'll have Maria talking to us about health disparities in medicine.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. Okay. Can everyone see?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. So I chose this paper specifically, so I kind of have an outline here, but pretty much because there's, a civil rights movement going on right now around the world pretty much, and a lot of the underlying infrastructure issues have been sort of brought to light, as well as the fact that we're in a pandemic. So health disparities have just become very relevant for everybody. And we're seeing that minority populations are disproportionately affected by coronavirus due to their underlying health conditions, as well as other things. Um, so right here, I just sort of wanted to put like an example of, how it's affecting minority populations. So these are the counties with the 20 highest infection rates. And none of these match up with the counties that are experiencing the highest death rates in the US. So this obviously it wouldn't make sense at first, because why would the counties with the most cases not be the highest death rates? And that's because of, underlying health conditions and things like that. And then this is a little bit more specific with the disparities here in North Carolina. So this is pretty much saying that, for example, African Americans are disproportionately more impacted by almost every one of these categories when compared to non-Hispanic whites, which places them in a much more dangerous spot when it comes to things such as COVID-19. So the paper right here is addressing the fact that evidence-based research has sort of failed to implement the necessary structure that that having, a community-based intervention would involve. So the things like intervention strategies were tested in academic settings where you really control the population, and there was success in that. However, putting it into, a real world setting is tough, because you do have to address, cultural, social, ethnic, any kind of religious, all kinds of cultural backgrounds when you're creating intervention strategies to reduce health disparities. So this sort of expands on that idea and says that we shouldn't just take, these intervention strategies, but sort of build on them specifically for each community, which would allow for more successful outcomes. So this sort of goes into, the background in health disparities based on, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, things such as that. For example, cardiovascular disease, 50% higher in African Americans than whites. That's an underlying health condition. Then there's diabetes, obesity, things of that nature. And the NIH sort of decided to implement different strategies to address these issues. However, the interventions were tested in a very controlled environment, and they weren't able to be implemented in a successful way. And so this sort of builds on that. And they established like a 7-part framework for how to address these things. So if you look right here, we have sort of, hold on. This is very tiny. It's number 1 is identify the community infrastructure and engage partners, and then specify the theory, so the method in which you will address the issue. Identify multiple inputs for the new program, design intervention prototype, and then design study methods and measures for community setting. Build community capacity for delivery, and then deliver the intervention and monitor the implementation process. So pretty much this starts off as saying we should look at the whole community and the different programs that are already in place to sort of combine them together and go in and establish these CBPRs, which are called community-based participatory research. And a lot of that involves having people that are already in the community, so community health workers, which are known to just be more trusted by minorities. So if you have someone there that is part, knows what your culture is like, it's easier to sort of understand and trust them when it comes to health decisions. And so the second part of that also includes that the engagement principles, as well as establishing both behavioral and theoretical frameworks. So addressing it sort of like in a structural way and then in an individual way. So with behavior changes. So, an example of that would be increasing physical activity to reduce obesity in a certain population. And that could be, full community-based, so the entire community is sort of pushed to do that. And then individual is sort of, let's establish patterns in your behavior that help that process. So then the third part of that was to have community asset mapping. So sort of putting all the things that are already in place with the community and then allowing for the entry of these new programs into those. So already there's like community resources and such, and then you build up on that. Then the prototype design was discussed. You can't really do a randomized trial or a study that has the perfect structure, because people, you can't just randomize the people. It's a certain group, it's a very specific group that you're addressing. So because of that, you can do group randomized trials, as well as a longitudinal study, which sort of addresses what people's health was before the intervention, when the intervention occurred, and then afterwards. So that would sort of give you an idea of what the effect actually was. Then the sort of methods and measures, just like I said, you can't really do a randomized control trial, but you can take, those little bits and pieces of it and implement it into your intervention. And then sort of the community capacity for delivery, the most important part would be interventionists that know the community. So academics, professors, community health workers, social workers, people that really know the community and are able to aid them in that way. And then the delivery would involve creating something that is feasible and is able to continue on for a long period of time. So pretty much why I decided on this and not like addressing the specific health issues, because I feel like we're presented, especially now, with a lot of information about African American, Latino, Native American people facing disparities with their health, but we aren't really provided with sort of a solution. And this wouldn't be a solution, but it is an intervention strategy that could be implemented in order to address these concerns, which I think is important for us to sort of think about and maybe push for health policy to move towards the direction of establishing these things in our communities. And pretty much, this addresses those issues and talks about how we need to allocate funding and resources to push for these things to be a part of our method of addressing the health disparities. So, sorry, I went really fast. Let me go with this. Oh God. Okay, sorry guys. This won't zoom out. Don't know why. Okay. I don't know why it didn't zoom out. But a good resource for this is the COVID racial data tracker. So this sort of kind of goes into what we're living through right now, how it's affecting, disproportionately affecting Black and Latino people. So it breaks down geographic data, what we know, all kinds of resources sort of to look into further into it, as well as, you know, the Department of Health and Human Services hasn't really updated anything for COVID-19, but I'm sure we'll see that very soon. And then as sort of a wrap up before anyone has questions, as a reminder, you should cover your mouth and when you're out in public and maintain social distancing, because this pandemic disproportionately affects people of color, and we don't really want to see these case numbers go up, especially if we can do something to prevent them. Right. Sorry, guys. I'm looking at the chat right now. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. The click percent in the top right corner, we can see the full screen. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not used to screen sharing, that's why. Let me see here. Yeah.
Maria, I think you brought up really good points, and I think your presentation flowed really well with what Ruby said, like coming from the science aspect and kind of shifting into the social aspect. Because I think this is something that we kind of touched on with Dr. Hartstone when he came to talk about or talk to us. And I know some of you are some new faces and you guys might not have been there, but essentially like what we talked about that meeting is kind of what we're talking about here is that we do all of this great, amazing science research. We're all taking these STEM classes and stuff, but instead of just focusing so much on the science, we all, like every STEM person, in my opinion, should focus really on the social factors that kind of tie into science as well. Because like everything that Ruby said was so valid in understanding like the cause of coronavirus and kind of how to study it and stuff like that. But sometimes for me, it comes down to like, what is the point of having all that knowledge if it's not equally distributed to everyone, right? And I feel like sometimes a lot of STEM majors like aren't really like aware of that and aware of like those problems. So I feel like having a presentation like what you had, especially right after everything that Ruby said, I think that's a really, really good point. And especially with what John's saying in the chat too, like just seeing at his church how a lot of people like didn't really take social distancing seriously until someone knew, like their preacher said it. I feel like that just goes to show the power that all of our voices have, right? So I know a lot of people, especially with like Black Lives Matter, they're like, oh, what does me posting do, right? But like you posting like just a simple post or just a simple tweet or something like that, it can reach so many people, and so many people will be more inclined to look these things up. So I think this presentation was really powerful in that aspect.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's so there's a reason why sociology is part of the MCAT.
Yeah.
And why it's highly recommended to take sociology as a class in your undergrad. Personally, I just took it over the summer, and I had a blast with it. It was so interesting. Literally on our final, I got to look up, use the Black Lives Matter website and like cite it and everything, and use information from that to answer one of the questions on my final, and how COVID-19 is affecting different races in various different ways. So it's really, I do think this is a really important presentation, taking the sociology side of it.
Yeah, I think it's equally as important, and I think it wasn't until like my junior year where I took public health nutrition, and then I think like sociological determinants of health or something like that, or societal, something like that. But it sort of gives you an idea of why the research that you're doing is important and how it can be applied to the real world. Since we're all sort of really focused on, data and research and moving really fast, but then also we should, address who it's going to impact later on and why it's so important to do this.
I don't know, this is not completely related, but I saw you talk about the COVID tracker thing, and I don't know if you guys saw, but if you have iPhones, that like if you go to settings and health, they added like a COVID tracker thing in your iPhones yesterday,
Oh,
which
wow.
is really
Yeah, I saw that, but it made me really concerned because Apple is a private company, and also if our devices are connected to Google and like Alphabet, and it's just really worrying that all of our private health data is so accessible to these corporations, but not the agencies that should have it where it's secure.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't really know what they're doing with it. Like, what are they going to do with it when this is all over?
Yeah, it is kind of worrying and different, like how they just put that in there. Not even a lot of people know that they put it in there, I feel like. And it's very worrying. I feel like the bigger corporations know more about us than like our private, like your doctor, like your pediatrician you've been going to.
Especially later, I'm worried about what are people's insurance coverage going to be like if you already have COVID, or if you've had COVID, are they going to be covered, especially if you're on Medicaid or Medicare? What can they do with that we don't know yet? So it's just yeah, but I turned it off. Everybody turned it off because it's just they shouldn't have that information because they're not doing anything to help us either.
Facts.
Yeah, I agree with that. If it's not for contact tracing purposes, then there's really no reason to have it out there. Yeah. I don't know if anyone has any other questions or anything else to add. Okay.
We do have contact tracing. Oh, there's contact tracing. If anybody wants to get involved, I can send the link in an email. It's the North Carolina Public Health Department has contact tracing jobs, and they'll contact people and they'll you can reach them and you can go to their house, but that's only that's most of it is mobile. But if anybody's interested in that, I can send the link.
Yes, please send us the link. We can just email you after this, and then hopefully we can send that out to everyone.
And I can make this available in the little folder.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. I think both of these presentations were really good, and like Shabazz said, it's crazy how they went hand in hand. I think it's also very worrying that the media, I feel like when the media was talking about COVID so much, everyone was so afraid, and now that the media shifted to Black Lives Matter and not talking about COVID, then people just stopped thinking COVID was a thing. They were just oh yeah, it's gone, but it's not gone. It's still there, just because the media is not talking about it. And now the media is not talking about Black Lives Matter, so people are oh yeah, it's done. It's not done. It's still going on. It's just that the media doesn't care because it's not violent anymore. Or they're just looking for the next headline. But I think that's just a problem with today's social media. It's so quick and fast, everything's just a trend, but these things are so serious and they need to be addressed, or there's going to be bigger long-term consequences.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Especially as as college students, we really have to be cautious and mindful of the impact that we have. I know a lot of people our age are not taking this seriously at all. And while, they may have not severe symptoms at all, it could impact someone. Maybe someone you don't even know, if you go to the grocery store, you expose somebody to the virus that may be susceptible. So just really important to keep that in mind. And even if you think the mask is dumb, just put it on. It's not a big deal. We're all wearing one, so
Do you guys think NC State is doing enough to protect us from COVID?
It really depends. I think they did make it a requirement to wear face masks on campus, so that was really good. And they did make most of the classes online. I don't know about you guys, but now I only have one class in person. It's literally like once a week for 50 minutes.
Yeah,
So
mine is the same way. That's why I wish they would just like let us do what they did last time, like the distance learning at home. I feel like that's safer than getting all of the students who go to NC State from wherever they are across the state or country coming back to like campus. And I feel so bad for kids living in dorms. Like, I don't know, those dorms are nasty. Like, imagine having to live in a suite in the middle of a pandemic. I would scream. I mean, let's be honest. The suites are nasty. 6 people for one bathroom in a pandemic. Like
this stuff is so bad. Literally,
circulating air in the whole building. That stresses me out so much. I'm just thinking about like, what happens if one person in one building gets something, and it's just. And Meredith is even worse because we're doing everything in person and hybrid, which means
Meredith finally came out with their decision.
Yes, and it's a terrible decision. I hope that Roy Cooper shuts it down because I have no idea. Like, there's immunocompromised people, and we're having basically almost all of our classes in real life. And I don't know how this is gonna work.
All of your classes in person?
Yeah, and I'm just like, should I drop out? Should I not go to school? Like, what are my options?
My grandparents usually live with me. Right now, they had to stay in Pakistan because of the pandemic. Like, we didn't want them flying from there to here since it's such a long flight. And they're pretty old, but I feel like if they lived here at home, my mom works in the hospital, so even she was like, I don't think I could live in my own house because I'd be too afraid to spread COVID to like my parents. So I think people who are in that situation where they live with their grandparents or other people who are immunocompromised, it's kind of sucks that they have to go to one class for 50 minutes a week where like, because like they could be living with someone. Like if all the classes are online, I don't know why they can't just make it remote. Like literally all my classes are online. I don't know why we have to go in person. It's just
I don't know what.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say I don't know what the finances situation is for NC State, but I think that's the reason or their justification for making classes in person. But I mean, it's
still really dangerous.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter even if you lose money for a year. Like it's incredibly dangerous to put kids back.
And I think I saw my story, like my Instagram stories that UNC Chapel Hill is putting in like some kind of clause. So if they cancel classes and kids have to return to their houses, like get kicked out of their dorms, that they're not going to refund any of the money.
Oh, that makes me so upset.
Yeah, like what if they just send kids in for a month just to get the money and then send us back home? Like I think that's a very
I think that's what's gonna happen. That's like my worst fear. That's what's gonna happen. Like a bunch of people are gonna get sick and then they're just gonna cancel. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's very tricky, especially with UNC making that clause. Like they kind of know what they're setting themselves up for. I don't think they're that stupid.
Personally, I'm living in an apartment that's separate from NC State altogether. So I still have to pay lease and stuff, and I, of course, have to live there because I'm not going to pay so much money for no reason. But they can't kick me out because they're not part of NC State.
Yeah, same. I agree.
So it's like good and bad.
Yeah, I didn't realize like on-campus apartment living, it's like a lot harder because like they can just kick you out whenever. Cause like they like got rid of us and I still had to pay and I was so mad about it. And I think they're finally gonna be like, it's fine, we're gonna forgive the summer. But like basically I would never recommend anyone to ever live in campus housing again. There's already enough mold in like every single college I've been to. It's like this can't keep going. I think there needs to be an overhaul of like also campus housing because like I know like so many people in the past have had like mold allergies and just like air issues and like all the buildings are old, like whether it's UNC or Meredith or State, and it's like they can't keep doing this even if it is like a financial issue. But I think specifically like state universities, like there has to be like some sort of I guess maybe like not bailout, but like some sort of support from the like taxes for this year to maybe help college students, specifically because we didn't get any like COVID. Like everybody's talking about like the 1,200, but you didn't get the 1,200 if you're a dependent.
And I think some people still are waiting on unemployment checks to come through. Some people are still waiting on their stimulus check too. So like a lot of people are still lacking like that financial support. And that's like one big thing between like other countries handling it. At least they gave like their citizens support. We've gotten like no, like genuinely like no centralized support from our government about like handling like how to handle this, like because it's actually like a financial crisis. Like it's ridiculous, especially like rent relief. Like I was so mad, like I've had to pay $3,000 in rent for an apartment that I have not lived in for months. And I can't even imagine, like, at least I'm privileged enough to like have parents who can afford to pay that. I can't even imagine what it's like for people who are living in these apartments and they don't even have a job to like pay that rent. And they're just trying to survive off like a one-time payment of $1,200. Like it really puts things into perspective. So
yeah. Yeah, it does. Sort of brings all the issues, all the infrastructure issues that we have to light. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming. Maria, you had a really great presentation. And if you guys want links to any of these presentations, they'll be in the SJC Google Drive, and we'll also be linking them onto our blog so you guys can read up on these topics there as well. And I just want to end with saying that we have a ton of dates open for July to present. So I really encourage all of you to present. And if you've already presented once, I still encourage you guys to present again, because just talking through issues like this, it's a really great way to break down these complex research articles and just to talk with your peers about research as well. It's a really great way to get your kind of foot into the door with research as well. And stay tuned for next week's meeting about our guest speaker. I'm sure it'll be super informative, and please spread the word, tell all your friends about it.
Yeah. How do we sign up to like present? Like, is it on the website?
It's on so if you're a member of the club, I think you should have access to the Google Drive, and then you can just go in there and it'll be a weekly sign up sheet and Excel.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or anything like that? All right, well, like Myra said, all this stuff will probably be on the blog, sjcncsu.wordpress.com. And we're probably gonna have a guest speaker next week. There's gonna be emails with all this stuff coming up, so just keep looking out for it. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.